This is gonna hurt. It's time for the Suffering Podcast.
The truth of our relationships lie within the boundaries of trust. And do we really know anybody? Often reactions come from unexpected angles, blindsiding us and forcing a long, hard look at reality. Jaded, shell-shocked, and gun-shy are the new ways that we must live our lives when that bond of trust is broken. Wondering when the next attack will be coming our way. The person you trusted the most now becomes the person you trust the least. Our relationships are a slippery slope. As human beings, we require them because we're a species that thrives on togetherness. But too often love and trust are replaced by vengeance. I'm Kevin Donaldson here with Mike Failace, and welcome to the Suffering Podcast. If you're a fan of overcoming adversity and overcoming suffering, then we're for you, because that's the stories that we highlight. So do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, please comment, and now you can join. Don't forget to ring the bell so you can get notified of all of our new content, and follow us on all social media so you can find out exactly what we're up to. On this episode of the Suffering Podcast, we welcome Tom Flynn to discuss the suffering of a domestic. Tom knows all too well when a marriage falls apart and a relationship goes sour. Before we get into anything, let's throw a big shout out to our marquee sponsor, that's Toyota of Hackensack. We don't trust anybody as police, but we do trust them. So go to toyotaofhackensack.com, let them find you a car. So Tom, thank you so much for coming in.
It's my pleasure.
He's like a big fan too.
I know, I love it.
He's on all of our Instagram lives and all that stuff. I mean, that's crazy.
You know, ever since we've seen that Flynn tee coming up on Instagram, it always puts a smile on my face because it makes it all worth it.
Well,
really
why don't we
does.
get into how you and Tom met?
So Tom found the show through Mike DePalma. More people have found this show through Mike DePalma than anybody else. Maybe Stuart Churchill is another one. All of our Hoboken connections. And the oddest thing happened. I'm doing something at my church. My church is based out of New York City. And I'm walking back, and I don't like going into the city at all. I'm walking back. We're right in front of Madison Square Garden. I'm trying to get to the path, and getting in the path with all that construction going on is a nightmare. And I hear Kevin Donaldson. I was like, oh man.
Oh shit! As long as it's not a cop.
You know, it's usually
Hands behind your back.
Somebody maybe arrested or something. That's what I'm thinking. I'm like, oh my God! And I turn around and I don't recognize you because I only see your name.
Yeah.
And there you go, and you introduce yourself. And I remember on the ride home, I called Mike DePalma. I said, yeah, who's this guy, Tom Flynn? He follows us on Instagram. Tell me about him. And Mike told me about him. And then it clicked. Because Mike had told me about what you have done for him, and we're going to get into that.
Sure.
So, Tom, each week we take a social media question from one of our audience. This one comes from Barabbas316. Real simple. So what are you grateful for? Because out of all the crap that all of us have gone through on this table, there has to be gratitude in your life. So what are you grateful for?
Absolutely. 110%. It comes immediately to mind. The greatest day for me as a human being is the day I became a father.
Changes everything.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Even before then, I can tell you when I put my hand on my wife's abdomen when she was pregnant, and my first daughter, Grace. You know, like children in the womb, they kick.
you feel that first kick.
This wasn't a kick. It was a soft, gentle, I don't know if she was moving her foot. And the way I describe it to people I know, it was through my hand straight up to God.
Mm.
It was.
Okay, it's through the hand straight to the heart also.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's, you know.
We, as fathers, it's not the same as carrying them in the womb. But when you carry them in your heart and carry them in their mind, that is fatherhood. And it's the best thing.
It's finally caring for something more than you care for yourself.
As police, what do? Right?
We care for others.
Care
we
for
get
everybody else.
involved
Yep, absolutely.
in what's known as the noble cause, right? Even if we go for different reasons, it's a good job, whatever it is, we're doing it because we want to be a part of something that's bigger than us individually. And there's nothing more than being a father.
Mike, what do you think?
You know, I mean, everything we've been through. Right now, I'm grateful for my feet to move in the morning. You know, every day I wake up, I'm just grateful that we could take on another day. You know, like I said, I'm probably the oldest guy in the room again. So
You are.
yeah,
You are.
So I'm just grateful for every day. Like Tom said, I mean, you're grateful for your kids, the birth of your kids. I was there for the birth of both of my kids, and it was, I mean, fantastic. There's the first time your kid looks up at you and smiles when they finally could recognize you, I mean, that's a great experience. But I'm just grateful to wake up every day now. You see so much stuff going on now. I mean, these fires in Maui and all that, and how many people lost their houses and lost everything. People are jumping in the water to get away from it.
I saw that.
You just got to be grateful for what you have. Like I said, I'm grateful to wake up every morning and get my feet moving. Once my feet move, people say, like, how you doing? I say, I woke up this morning.
Yeah.
That's
Step one.
Yeah. I hate to wake up dead.
I am grateful for many things in my life, and sometimes you get a little short-sighted when you get stuck inside your darkness here. Of course, I'm grateful for my wife. I'm grateful for my kids. I'm grateful for my family. I'm grateful for my friends. This is going to surprise a lot of people, but what I'm most grateful for in my life is sitting right next to me. Because although he pisses me off like you wouldn't believe,
as you've seen,
I love him dearly.
I can testify as a witness to that.
I love him dearly. I love him more than I love my own brother.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think, again, I'm going to say this twice, while he pisses me off to no end, he makes me better. He makes me better in a lot of different ways. So I know I'm boosting up his ego right here, which isn't a good thing.
You're going to make me get up and give you a hug.
Yeah, man.
I do. I love him dearly, and I'm very grateful for Mike Failace.
That says it.
I'm very grateful that he came in on episode 9, and that's the picture you see up there. So,
you know what, too, Kevin, and being grateful just for the Suffering Podcast.
Of course.
I mean, every time someone says, oh, I love your podcast, and they always say, you helped so many people.
Yeah.
That, to me, is why we do this. When they say it helps a lot of people, it almost brings a tear to my eye. See, I mean, we have, 10,300 subscribers now or something like
hopefully
that?
it'll be more by the time this airs.
And counting.
And counting.
It just amazes me that 10,000 people want to see us or listen. I said, I posted something on Instagram the other day. I said, thank God they tune in to listen to our guests, because I know they're not tuning in to listen to us.
Nah, for sure it is. Listen, as a fan, I can say it's for the whole thing.
Yeah, it's a way of interacting with people. Our trauma gives us perspective, but other people's trauma is sort of, it gets us out of ourselves, and that's what the show does. It gets you out of your own little closet, and the world's a pretty broad place.
For sure.
So anyway, Barnabas, thank you so much. You made me fucking to thank this guy, but no, I thank you.
After I pissed you off 20 minutes ago.
Thank you so much. You almost blew that answer, by the way. Thank you so much for sending that in. Keep sending in your questions. We will try to get them on the air. So, Tom, I went over it before. The strangest, most fortuitous meeting that I've ever had in my life. But again, you're always where you're supposed to be. You're always in the right place at the right time. We happen to be walking across each other in New York City amongst 10 million people, and somehow you recognize me, which is the whole reason I wear my glasses in public. So
I tell other people that very story. I said, you're never going to believe this. And we're literally in the busiest heart of Manhattan.
Yeah.
Just came out of Penn Station. And, the crowds of people, when they walk together, there was just a gap, because we could have walked right past each other if there was people there. There was a little gap. I looked up, and there I see him, and we're in New York City, and we looked eyes, and we're cops, so we're on the defensive. Who's this guy? What's his angle? And I introduced myself, and everything de-escalated from there. And to be honest with you, my involvement, that cemented it for me. That told me, as well as things that happened afterward, this is what I'm supposed to do. My suffering is for a reason.
of course it is. Yeah. It sucks. I mean, it sucks.
I mean, your suffering isn't only for yourself, it's for other people.
Yep.
If you could articulate your suffering.
Yep.
If you could tell what you went through, you're not the only one going through it. If your story helps someone else, that's what it's all about.
We've had people in here that couldn't articulate their suffering very well. Mm-hmm. And we had to help them along to get it out of them. But once they got it out, they're like a changed person. We just had one of these not that long ago.
Yeah.
Here it was like pulling teeth. But as soon as it was over, it was emotional throw up.
Yeah,
It was great.
catharsis.
It was great.
But then we had Amanda Coleman, whose suffering kept going.
Oh yeah, it's like tumbling down a mountain that never stops.
She was the second viewing right after Mike DePalma. I watched the episodes back to back. It was Mike DePalma, and then Amanda Coleman was the very next episode I watched. And in full honesty, being an Irishman, her brogue is like a siren song to me. Her voice
Kevin
is
says it all the
so
time.
Beautiful.
She could talk him to sleep.
She could read bedtime stories, and I'm just like, oh, okay, but she's a kind woman.
What a wonderful, wonderful person she is.
And what a great supporter for our show. She shares our stuff on social media, puts it up on her stories with all of her following, and she is like a celebrity in the United States amongst law enforcement. She's a savior.
Absolutely.
And because of her, I mean, this again points out that you're where you're supposed to be. Because of her, I reconnected with a guy I went to high school with who's been so helpful in getting people who reach out to me into treatment, into real treatment.
Yeah.
I'm grateful for every relationship. But some of them, you're like, wow, this is not by chance. Just like this.
It was, I got in full disclosure, my heart skipped a beat when she followed me back. I said, listen, I'm on the pathway. I got Amanda Coleman and the Blue Irish Angel following this guy. I'm a nobody.
Yeah,
right?
that's the way we think of ourselves. We're nobody. We like talking to people. That's about it.
We're nobody. We just have a stage to get our voice out there.
Yeah,
A platform.
We got a platform. I mean, we're nobody.
I'm a nobody too, and it's great to be in your company and to be a cog in the wheel.
Well,
right?
that's the true journey of a hero. He's an ordinary person put into extraordinary circumstances. So before we get into your extraordinary circumstance, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself? They see you on your Instagram lives. They see you commenting on our posts. Tell our audience who Tom Flynn is.
I'm just an average kid from Nutley, New Jersey, and I grew up, and I'm a Catholic school kid.
And he knows my drill instructor, who also lives in Nutley.
Absolutely,
Scariest individual on the planet.
Yeah, and we rode together a couple times.
Yeah.
So.
Oh God, what was that like? Oh my God,
great guy.
I can't imagine what that was like. It scared the shit out of me.
Well, you weren't changing the radio station. I can tell you that. And
you weren't touching any of the knobs. You weren't turning up the air conditioner, turning down the heat, nothing like that.
What a great drill.
Absolutely.
What a great man. And I'm thankful to him for teaching me the way he did.
An excellent firearms instructor,
Yes.
by the way, and a family man.
And an
beautiful
unbelievable. Last time I saw him, he was a little out of shape, but when he was drill,
Yeah.
man, he was in shape. So you grew up in Nutley, Catholic high school. What high school?
Queen of Peace High School in North Arlington.
North Arlington.
There you go.
So yeah,
I went to Queen of Peace Grammar School. I didn't go to Queen of Peace High School, but
and it was difficult because
which is no longer in existence. Queen of Peace High School.
just recently it closed up, sadly. So I had the Catholic upbringing, discipline. We had Christian brothers and nuns who were like kind of the mafioso of the Catholic Church. They're the enforcers. So
now this is back in like the 80s when they had the rulers and all that stuff.
Early 80s in grammar school. I got to tell you, for whatever measure of a man I am, it made me a better one having that discipline. So I grew up, and I remember on career day, our football star, football hero, came back to high school, and he's the one that planted the seed. He never knows this. He'll never know the impact he had upon me. And he's a Jersey State trooper. And the New Jersey State Police, their uniform, their presence, their mindset, and I talk about that a lot.
He was a Queen of Peace High School guy?
Yeah, he was a quarterback.
We'll talk later. I probably know him.
Yep. And came back, and all of a sudden I said, wow. I was like, he's a hero. And then all of a sudden from there, I became a private investigator for 6 years, doing surveillance.
Do you have to grow the mustache and wear the Hawaiian shirts?
Not like the Rockford Files, right?
Oh, okay. Well, even better. Jim Rockford was pretty good.
The glasses with the nose and the mustache.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, I started out doing matrimonial insurance work, surveillance, and it sounds a lot more cloak and dagger. It sounds like, you're sitting in a car. There's not a bathroom.
Now I feel bad for busting PI's balls every once in a while. I did that. I don't know if you ever did that. They would sit at a cop's house, like, because if a cop was going out on injury, they would try to watch him, and we knew it. And they're all kids. They're all very young kids, and they're sitting there and they got blankets covering this stuff. I pulled a guy out. I'm like, Jesus Christ, there's a bus stop right there. What are you perverted little son of a bitch you doing? And you see him just start getting really, really nervous. And we knew what he was doing.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I had that too, But, if a guy that's good at his trade, you go to the PD and you check in, you give your plate and you give your DL and say, listen, I'm doing a surveillance here.
But not if you're doing surveillance on a cop.
No, I passed up those jobs. I actually had law enforcement executives that I was tasked surveillance, and I asked them, please assign this to somebody else. So anyway, getting back to the law enforcement inspiration, it put the bug in my ear, and I said, I want to do the noble cause. I want to be the superhero. Like, you want to be there.
You want to be that guy that somebody turns to when they don't know where else to go.
To help the weak, to be caring, and then fierce against the bully. And I said, that's what I want to be. And I did it. I started as a civilian dispatcher in my agency. And within 6 months, there was a test available. I took it. Out of 834 applicants, I was the highest scoring non-resident.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's cool.
And
did you go to NATO's prep classes and all that stuff back in the day?
Every single one of them. Captain Dan Del Bagno. Princeton Learning Center or whatever it was. Educational Center or something. Yep.
Last I heard, there's hundreds of them out there now.
There are.
Because there's money in it. Yeah.
And the promotional as well.
Well, Del Bagno was like the only guy back in the day.
Yes, absolutely. And he took every single test. You didn't pass one up.
Yeah.
But this one was a special opportunity. And when I went through the whole thing, the chief called. I was working the desk as a dispatcher, and the call came down. The chief wants to say, oh, my God. Holy jeez, what did I do?
When they called us down, they said the chief wants to see us. We used to say, do we have to bring up tea or do we have to bring up our attorney? They said, okay, bring up tea. Okay, good, I'm good.
That sets the tone of the meeting. And he gave me a choice. And living in Nutley, he goes, listen, I got a call from the chief in Nutley. He wants to hire you. And a lifelong dream, being a police officer in your own town. We want to hire you too. What do you want to do?
Wow.
Not a bad option to have.
Not bad, but looking backward, I'm like, it's a little unfair to have me make a decision on the spot, because I felt if I said, hey, chief, let me sleep on it, never mind.
You don't pull the rug right out from under you.
Nah, disregard. You go to Nutley. So I said, my work ethic here, chief, I thank you very much for the opportunity. And then I worked for that law enforcement agency. Went through the academy. One of the awards, we talk about awards like cops. We don't like to talk about our own awards, right? There's only one that really stands out for me. And in the academy, I got the Merit Award.
I was going to say the Merit Award is the best award you can get in the academy.
I was so humbled. I didn't get, Top Gun. I was an academic. I stuck my nose in the books. But when I got that Merit Award, it's everybody, and for people that aren't familiar, it's everybody in the class say, you are the future of professional law enforcement. And if I had to pick a partner out of anybody in this class, they picked Tom Flynn, a nobody. A nobody from Nutley.
Nobody'd want to sit in the car with me after what they went through in the academy. Yeah. I had a little stomach issues in the academy. So, yeah, nobody's picking me for the Merit Award. Like, yeah, Donaldson was good, but, man, I ain't sitting in a car with him.
Yeah. Man, he's got some stank ass.
Oh, it's bad. It's bad. But now the noble profession that you are now immersed in, was it what you envisioned? Because there's a lot of, you have these big dreams and then reality hits. Was that for you?
Yeah.
I mean, you have the TV version of it, which we all watched back in the day, and
for sure. I dove in head first. I was big on the badge. I mean, I was all about it. I learned every 2C, every Title 39 code. I learned our contract up and down. I was on our bargaining committee. And sometimes when you take the extra effort to learn, your achievements can sometimes be misinterpreted as arrogance.
Yeah, I had a very good sergeant who gave me 2 books. He gave me the law enforcement handbook, and he also gave me our contract. And he said, learn both of them.
I have a story about the law enforcement handbook. I knew it so well when I went to Larry Holtz's courses. They said, "Hey, Tom, is Larry Holtz going to be your godfather to your first child?" Because I was enthralled with his instructional style and everything else, and I was all about it, man.
Yeah, but that contract is just equally as important.
I knew chapter, verse, clause, and when you recite that sometimes when somebody says something and you gently correct them.
You want to say, oh no, according to this. Well, like you said, it could come across as arrogance. I could see that too. But
the most powerful weapon is your brain.
Is your brain, absolutely.
Guns are an equalizer, but it's your brain.
Yeah.
Well, to a cop, the most powerful weapon is the pen.
Yeah, well, that too. But you have now become a dangerous cop.
Yeah.
Especially to a threatened administrator.
Yep. And there's this power struggle sometimes between rank and file, management, and the union. And I tried to strike that balance. And at the time, entering, this is sort of a subnote, the agency I worked for at the time had suffered a string of law enforcement on-duty suicides. At one point, our agency had the highest ratio of officer suicides and them on duty.
What was the reason for that?
They vary. I mean, it's all the demons of law enforcement. It's the things.
But so concentrated?
Yeah, within a short string. When I came on as a civilian, there's that line between civilian and police. And, you got civilians behind the desk. They got to earn your trust for a good reason. And I got on there, and they were still mourning a loss of a recent on-duty suicide. 2 years in, I'm a rookie cop. I'm working a side job. We had a festival in town, so roads get closed, people get angry, directing traffic, and we get a call. Everybody 88, which means come into headquarters. That was our code, 88. Everybody? I was like, we're going to let we're going to let the cars go through. As it turned out, in a neighboring jurisdiction, a lieutenant from my agency had a domestic issue, had chased his spouse around the house with the firearm, cornered her in a closet, and put one in her head, and then put one in himself.
That happened to somebody in my local, that same scenario.
So I started to think, wait a second.
Yeah, what am I getting into?
What did am I out of the frying pan into the fire? Maybe I should go back to surveillance.
But now you're starting to dissect your own brain. Like, what did I step into? Why is this happening?
Yeah.
Were you married at the time?
No.
No. So you were a cop and then got married?
Yeah, that was my first one.
You're not a real cop unless you get married twice.
Yeah. And it did have a factor. That's what.
So you got divorced. You got married and then divorced?
The first wife, lovely. Well, I was in love. We had been friends, known each other for 16 years, and got married. I was new on the job. And the joke is, the first Flynn marriage lasted slightly longer than the cocktail hour. And it happened to be a scheduling thing. So, you're a rookie. He's like, remember we used to go up to the weekend every time, our cousins, we got a wedding. It's like,
I can't get off.
I can't get, well, just have somebody work for you. Just put in for vacation. No, you don't understand.
Doesn't work that way.
Doesn't work that way. I got to go. And a lot of our relationships based on social outings. And I can tell you, we divorced amicably. I did it pro se, wrote up all the paperwork.
$385 or something like that.
You got it,
$399, I think it is on those billboards.
At the time, there used to be $385. Now it's like $425.
Yep.
Or $495 or something like that.
Yeah, there's a fuel surcharge for some reason. I can't figure it out. But yeah, we did it. Kind of spit in the hand. We hugged each other, went our separate ways. No children, no assets, and it was really, really clean. The way to go. So I advanced in my career. I was one of the first in my class to get promoted to sergeant, amongst some very tough candidates, and then eventually promoted to the rank of lieutenant. Had a lot of specialized assignments. I was a field training officer. I ran the field training program. I was assigned as accreditation manager for law enforcement accreditation and excellence.
Kalia?
This one was state chiefs. We started out with Kalia, with the numerous standards, and then we went back to the state chiefs. So, I was also on the SWAT team. The camera may not show it. Again, mindset. I was in better shape then, but it was one of the best times I had. The training, we had call-outs, we had active incidents.
Well, was it your dissolution of your marriage made you focus more on your job? Is that what happened?
I think I was always driven towards the job, and it's a fickle beast.
Yeah.
I would change priorities if I had to do it all over again. I might have changed my priorities. I wouldn't mind being a patrolman.
But like I said, you were young in your career. I mean, you're. I don't want to say your marriage was based on social activities, but you can't get off. And if you don't have a partner that doesn't understand law enforcement,
Yeah.
But as smart as you are, what the hell? You lost once, and then you rolled the dice again.
Yeah.
What the hell? You're supposed to be a smart guy.
Yeah. Well, contrary to that, I guess I was struck by Cupid's arrow.
Yeah.
oh boy,
My second wife was involved in EMS, and this is
Understood the schedule.
And this is not your Lady and the Tramp sort of rolling the meatball over in the Disney movie with the piece of spaghetti. We met over a sick prisoner.
Okay.
I was going to say on like a DOA or something.
Yeah, very close, very close. And she was beautiful. She stole my heart initially, and the more we got to know each other, it just carried forward. She had a great sense of the job, knowing it, the rigors, life, death scenes, suicides, and I've had a bunch of shifts. I've had a bunch of critical incidents, and then we got married, and a year later we had our first child, Grace, and then a year later, Faith Erin came into the world.
So you got Grace and Faith
And Rose.
and Rose.
I have
Jeez.
Grace Marie Flynn,
Well, Rose is the carryover from your Irish days.
Rose Ireland Flynn.
Oh my dear Lord.
She sneezes and clover comes out.
I was just gonna say you must shit clover leaves or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how long you obviously fell into this family role. You had kids very quick. Were they Irish twins?
No, but
No?
that's a great term. I wasn't even familiar with it till somebody told me about
Oh, really?
They were in a year apart.
it. Yeah, a little more.
Yeah.
And for the record, as if anyone wants to criticize me as a husband, I would say my batting average for getting the baby was very high.
Oh, you just got to lift the legs up.
One shot, one try, and the Flynn guy put the baby in there.
So you got laid 3 times in your marriage and you had kids 3 times.
That's pretty much it.
Now, being
A-Rod wish he had a batting average like Tom Flynn.
did you ever want to try to go for the 4th and try to get your boy? Because every man wants their boy. It's not that you love your daughters any less.
Yeah. The only thing I really wanted is, out of selfishness, I want the Flynn name to carry on.
Absolutely.
Irishmen just have a deep-rooted tradition in sort of carrying it on. But I will tell you something. My color palette is pink and purple.
Yeah.
If I had a boy, I would stare at him like a Rubik's Cube. I was like, I don't know, cuz. I don't know what to do. All
See,
I got is girls.
I'm the absolute reverse.
Yeah.
But again, you just said something that hit home to me. So, I'm Kevin Patrick. My son's Patrick Kevin.
Mm-hmm.
My youngest one is James Alexander the 5th. So they're legacies.
I'm a junior.
And I tell them too. I said, this is something that nobody else can take away from you. This belongs to you.
Yeah.
You make it what you want to make it, and hopefully they do. But
See, I always said I had a boy and a girl. It's like M&Ms, one with nuts, one without, and that's it.
Yeah. My barber used to say something. It's Italian barber in Nutley. He goes, Tom, you're a buttonhole maker. You're a buttonhole maker. You don't know how to put the stem on the apple. I say, all right, you're correct, but I couldn't be happier. And as you see, I wear this on my neck.
Yeah.
This is
Absolutely.
It's a dog tag, and it's on my social media, and I can read it verbatim. I don't even have to look at it. And it says, 3 little girls stole my heart. They call me daddy. And it's got my daughter's name on it, Grace, Faith, and Rose. And I'm a soldier in a battle right now. But I'm for them.
Well, when did your marriage start falling apart?
There was, oddly enough, there's 2 sides of the story, right? So I'm only telling you my viewpoint.
There's 3 sides to every story.
Yeah.
That side, this side, and the truth.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, as a husband, when I became a father, I definitely became less attentive to my wife. They really, it's almost the same thing when I became a cop. When I became a father, I'm telling you, man.
Because your responsibility level just hit the roof. You're responsible for these 3 human lives to make sure that they move forward in life.
And I'm an only child.
Yeah.
And now they have siblings. And I'm also a product of divorce. So my parents were divorced when I was 5 years old. But I had these daughters, and I said, no way, man. I am a family man. You are never going to see the side of divorce. And then God's plan kicked in.
Well, so how far were you into your career when your marriage started heading down a bad way?
My wife's father came down with an illness. So my father-in-law, they're Italian. And it was a mystery at first. And I really do, with all my heart, I love this man. And it was a liver illness. And at one point, I told my wife, I said, out of your family members, I said, I'm a match for your father. I'll donate my liver to him because I can go out on family leave and we won't lose money. Now you insert joke here. Is an Irishman donating his liver like giving a lemon, right? You know, at the time I'm 50, but this liver is like an 89-year-old woman's. So it's like you could say it's a hollow offer, an Irishman offering his liver.
Yeah.
But God is my witness. I was willing to do it. It never came to fruition, and within like 6 months, he passed. And she had a marked change in personality. It was just like a light switch went off.
Believe me, I know.
Yeah.
You know, I've seen that. I've seen that a couple times. I worked with a guy and loved his wife. You know, they were a good couple. You don't know what happened behind closed doors.
Yeah.
But her father dies, same thing. She goes off the rails.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely.
Happens all too often.
And you know, to what degree it played a part in my circumstance, I feel it did. And then the incident.
The
happened.
incident. So walk us through the
Dun.
incident, because the reason I named this episode "The Suffering of a Domestic" because it seems like that's the stem of stuff start heading down.
Yeah. It precipitated events that grew like a cancer on the family. And March 28th, 2019, we had a verbal argument, and the children were there involved, and it resulted in a 911 call to the local PD.
From someone who heard it?
My wife called.
Oh, she called.
She dialed 911.
And she knows exactly what that'll do to you.
And like, I couldn't believe it was happening at the time. And I told her, I said, you know, I don't know if you know what you did or you don't know, but it's like, I immediately now have to go wait outside. I don't know if we'll ever have a chance to really talk again. And I have the 911 tapes as a result and the recordings, and I wait outside. And you know, like when if you responded, when you're going to somebody who's on the job, here's an academy story. Like, how many gun jobs does a cop go on? Every call is a gun job because you have
a gun
and you can be disarmed.
Yep.
But now you have a member of service, a law enforcement officer, and you know it attracts a bigger response, a enhanced response.
You know the consequences, you know the possible consequences going afterward, where the average layperson will not know that you can be arrested, you could, you know, the domestic paperwork, vine form, all that stuff is going to happen.
Yeah.
You know, because I can't tell you my wife has never called the cops on me, because that's not the truth. Mm-hmm. When I was, after my shooting, she called us a couple times. And I knew they were coming to pick me up. So what did I do? I waited out on the bed of my truck with a bunch of liquor and drank it. And as they're waiting for other responding officers, I'm like, hang on, I'll go with you in a minute. Let me finish.
Yeah.
Yeah. The arrogance, because you know what's coming.
Yeah.
And you got a big brass response too. You know, you got all the supervisors are going to come if it's a cop. That was it in the town that you worked in? Oh, you were in Nutley and this was your mom, but they knew you were on the job.
Yeah. You know, because she said it.
Yeah.
She said it.
My husband's a cop and la la la.
And I said, oh, here we go. And I know, like, responding. And when you go to on-duty incidents, I think it's respectful. If you know there's going to be a boss, there's going to be a cop, you behave. You mind your manners. Listen, if you were having a drink, that's the worst thing. Like, I mean, you get some calls you go on, and there's guys on the job, and they're not behaving. I felt it was a duty. Listen, be calm, be respectful, be out there, tell them where your service weapon is. Don't give anybody a reason to be uncomfortable. At one point, they said they asked for a boss. Then they asked for another boss. So here comes the lieutenant, the next layer.
That's what I said, the brass response.
Absolutely. You hit the nail on the head. And this is where I feel there was a little fault procedurally. And listen, I will never bash my own brothers in blue. But they said, he said it's a verbal. It's not a domestic. There's no predicate offense. Ask her if she wants a TRO because he's on the job. And if she says yes, we'll make it a domestic. Those are the words exactly.
Wow.
And that...
Good job protecting your brother there. Not you, the other one. Some of us are our own worst enemies.
Yep.
Let's be very clear. We're our own worst enemies. However, because I ran into this a lot. You know how much domestic paperwork I've done on verbal arguments? Look, and I would say this isn't a domestic; it's a verbal argument.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I said if there was a police response every time I had an argument with my wife, there'd be a substation in my garage.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then that was the turning point. That was the pivotal change in the life of the family, my life, and as it is today. And this is where the shield became the spear, the domestic violence incident.
Now, in your head, before you go any further, in your head, your wife just called the cops on you for something that you don't see. You never touched her, you were correct? You never touched her. There was no physical anything. She calls the cops. Now, in your mind, especially, try to think back to that night or day, whatever it was. Are you done with her?
No.
Yeah.
No. And, as being on the job, we're critical, right? So you get we know it, being on the job. There's the Friday TRO, and here's the Monday makeup and the dismissal. Yeah. You get the career domestics, and they come in, and I'd say, like, why would you do that?
How many TROs do you get on a Friday? And you're locking the guy up on Sunday because he violated TRO just to go back and see, because they wanted to make up again.
Yeah.
But, and they couldn't get it dismissed until a Monday.
So here was my theory with TROs, and see if this rings true with either of you. If I walked into that house and the woman said, I don't want a TRO, chances are she needs a TRO. It's the ones you walk into the first time and say, I want a TRO. Those are the ones who really don't need one.
Yep.
I mean, that's my theory. I don't think that's 100% correct, but that's my theory.
I think it's a good categorization. I think it's a characterization, rather, of the ones that are really muscling the system.
Yeah.
Because they know how damaging it could be to a cop's career.
Yeah.
All right. Like you said, if the cop walks in and all of a sudden she says, I want a TRO. Without explaining what happened first, because they know how damaging it could be.
Now, did they lock you up that night or just tell you to leave the residence?
They didn't. There was no arrest. There was no criminal charges. When I found out the TRO was being issued, I was sitting on the couch, and my three girls were nearby. And this is a poignant point in the story for me emotionally, because it takes me back like I was there sitting right here. I can see it clear as day. They said, is there some place you can go? I'm like, why?
Yeah, exactly.
First. And then, well, she wants a TRO. And I was being a gentleman and they were with me, otherwise from that decision, they did a good job. We were very respectful of each other. And I said, listen, can I say goodbye? And I remember, because I got the body cam footage, and I can still hear my girls screaming, no, Daddy, don't go. We love you, Daddy, don't go. And I said, it's okay, sweetie. I said, Mommy got us in a little bit of trouble, but I'll be back. They were screaming, crying. And they almost had to tear them away from me because they were clutching me so hard. And I went down to the PD, did a consent to search. I had inherited my home from my father. My father was a research and development chemist for Hoffman LaRoche, invented Valium.
Really?
He was on the research team.
So your father made a lot of people happy.
I actually, I brought the book. He's published in the book, that lead scientist
So if you take a Valium, thanks, Dad.
Yeah. And he always told me, he's like, listen, I never saw a penny of that.
I'm sure he didn't.
But diazepines, benzodiazepine, benzos as they're called, very instrumental in mental health. Klonopin, people get Klonopin. You know, I'm not saying you should be on it for life.
I know that.
Yeah. But he
Someone went on for too long.
yeah.
Someone used to like to drink on Klonopin.
Alcohol and benzos is
Bad.
Yeah, synergistic effect.
Bad, but it's cheap.
Yep.
It's a cheap.
Cheap high.
You're a cheap drunk.
Cheap date.
But it could kill you.
My father told me that. He's like, listen, he goes, they give Valium a bad name, but every time they find somebody that overdoses, it's they were doing lines of blow all night. They have a quart of vodka in them. They've been drinking all day long, but they're saying it's the Valium that killed them because they got the deepest pockets to sue.
Yeah.
My father would draw benzene rings as a child and show me what he created in a laboratory. He also created a drug called Versed. Versed, if you go to the dentist and you get put under sedation, Versed is the drug they give you. And they give it to combat military, so they have retroactive amnesia, so they don't remember the trauma of the explosion.
Wow.
Wow.
That's
pretty
crazy.
cool. That's pretty cool. But it's a shame he didn't have a hand in that Viagra stuff because that's wonderful.
Yeah, yeah,
So I heard.
yeah. He wanted to go into Viagra, but it was too hard.
That's a good one.
But
So where did you go?
So I left and I lived in a hotel for a month. I had a close friend of mine who was my academy mate, my best friend, my brother, just a very similar relationship to you and Mike, which is also another casualty of my divorce.
Oh, yeah. You always lose people in the divorce.
My best friend in the whole world, I called him my brother. We godfather to each other's children. So I called him. I told him what was going on. He also went through rehab. I took him, picked him up from rehab, and he's state trooper, oddly enough. So we came on in our jurisdiction. He left. I cried. A grown man cried when my brother was going to the state police and we weren't going to work together. So I go to the hotel and I'm living there waiting for the hearing. I'm having microwave dinners, not able to talk to my girls. Every single night from the day they were born, I was in the delivery room too. When they cut my wife open, C-sections, I'm looking, oh, you're doing a wonderful job. I'm looking, there's your bladder. There's another piece of thing, like we go to an autopsy. I was like, it's a deer gutting over here.
Yeah, it's
No kidding.
But I said, oh, you're doing beautifully, honey. It's so sweet. And I'm looking, oh my God, the carnage over here.
I will say the hardest thing about a C-section, because I watched it, is looking at that placenta. And I'm going to gross everybody out here, but it looks like a veiny London broil.
Yeah. I was almost going to say like a liver, almost a little bit.
Oh,
But
God.
yeah.
It's bad. It's bad.
I remember my girls coming out, my first daughter, she sang. You know how most they have the shriek? My first girl, Grace, she came out, la, la, singing. Like
I
an
remember
angel.
my boy coming out, and you notice their balls swell. Their boys, the balls swell. And I'm like, that ain't my kid. That ain't my goddamn baby.
Pull DNA, doc.
Can't be Irish.
Jesus, look at those things, man. He's carrying some tennis balls in there.
My ex gave birth naturally to both of them, so I never actually had the C-section stuff. So
Yeah, it's something else. But the funny thing is after the baby comes out, you have to follow the baby. Mm-hmm. It's like this was wrong. My wife was now persona non grata. I just go, oh, hey, I'll see you later. Hey, they're gonna have fun sewing you back up.
Yeah.
here's some ice.
Yeah.
It's not an easy recovery.
No,
either,
I know it's a tough one. Yeah,
It's
yeah.
tough.
So you're living in a hotel, eating microwave dinners. Can't see your kids, which has got to be the worst thing in the world.
Now were you put what we call in the rubber gun squad? Were you allowed to go back to work, desk duty or anything like that?
Administrative leave.
Yeah.
So this duty weapon was seized, and administrative leave. But at least on the bright side, I was being paid. Worked it out. Went to the TRO hearing, which is now TRO going for an FRO. I was expecting there was going to be a dismissal, and now we can talk. We can move our way forward. And she's like, nope, I'm going for the hearing. So I had to have a full-blown trial.
For the FRO, for the final
FRO.
restraining order.
Yeah, so now she's going for an FRO, and she got on the stand, and there was these tales of things of what she was trying to portray me as. And I said, this is fiction.
Like, what happened?
This is pure fiction.
Where was I when that happened?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And, it was about as bad as you get. I mean, I was demonized, but I prevailed. And the TRO was dismissed. And I said, listen, I tried to be so good about it. I said, she doesn't have to get right out of the house because now she's living in my father's house, my family residence. I said, she doesn't have to leave right away. It's like, we'll work things out. I'll go back. Turns out, scooped up the children, left, went to my mother-in-law's home, took a lot of belongings out of the house, and I went back to an empty home. And then she refused to provide the children. To see me, to talk to me. There's no TRO now. There's no impediment. So we had to do an order to show cause, which is an emergent hearing, to get in front of a judge to say, I got to see my children. And
that's got to be tough too, because if you contacted her, she just get another TRO against you. Oh yeah, he called me and threatened me.
I didn't even go back to get my personal belongings. You know how you can go back, with an accompaniment with a law enforcement officer to keep the peace. I thought, I'm not even touching it. I'm not going there. I want this to go right. And prevailing on a TRO hearing is no small feat.
Was it what county? Essex?
Essex.
Really? See, I'm surprised they even entertained this in Essex.
Yeah.
Years ago, Morris was the tough one, and then Essex was a little bit easier because they saw so much.
Yeah.
I'm very surprised about that. What year is this?
This is 2019.
Oh, okay, that makes perfect sense because those two counties have now flip-flopped from what I understand.
Yep. Yeah, you got it right.
Yeah.
But Essex and Camden County still have the most numbers. I follow the stats now because of my position.
Yeah.
Now it's April 26th. As you know, I had said that there were firearms seized from the home. My father, being a chemist, of course, he's a hunter, right? Because chemists are hunter. What a great man.
He didn't make meth, did he?
No.
Take Valium and
I
go
saw that
shooting.
TV show.
No. But you know what he would make? He would make silver. He would crystallize silver, and he would bring it home in a little jar. And he goes, watch this. He goes, on the string. He goes, in a week, we're going to have silver. And it was a little jar. Would sit there, and sure as shit.
Yeah.
At the end, we took it out, and he would bring home, the chemicals that are in nightsticks?
Mm-hmm.
He would bring them home because he could make them in the lab, and we would make like homemade nightsticks and all sorts of.
That's crazy.
He'd make wine.
Dad was like Mr. Wizard.
and I brought that to the children. That's one thing I took from him. Dry ice experiments, all that stuff with the girls. Loved it.
Yeah.
And I taught my oldest daughter archery. So we were doing archery. She took to it like a champ. But so now it's April 26th. I'm waiting for the children. I said, you know what? We finally got them. She's going to bring the girls over. I'm going to see them. I got to get some mac and cheese for my girls. Let me go to the store. I get in the car, start it up. I put it in reverse. 3, 4, 5 unmarked police cars come up on the lawn behind me in the driveway, marked Nutley PD. Being on the job, I said, I'm going to show my hands. So I'm sitting there in my own driveway. The neighbors are now seeing everything. Guy comes up, he goes, you know what we're here for? I don't. It's about the guns. It's like, you have all my father's guns. I don't have a firearm to be had. He goes, it's about the guns. As it turns out, the two of the firearms that my father had legally purchased at the time, back in the day, fell under the New Jersey assault weapons ban. And he also had magazines that were violative of the statute for high-capacity magazines.
So did every cop driving at one point.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. Before they changed the law, they changed every on-duty cop to a violator until the lawyers and the legislature fixed it. So this will go to speak to the draconian and barbaric gun laws. It didn't even matter if I had went to turn them in. I never knew that they turned into assault weapons. No notice, no nothing. I said, all right, this is going to be a summons and release. Couldn't somebody have called, my PBA lawyer, and I could have came in and turned myself in, arrested, handcuffed, back at a patrol car, brought in there, holding cell with other prisoners, processed. And I was like, all right, it's going to be on a summons. They called the prosecutor's office. They put it on a warrant.
What was the meaning behind all this venom?
I suspect, because I had a difference of opinion on some promotional matters, where I was it was my contention my lieutenant promotion should have came sooner. Litigation was initiated against the township.
Oh.
La 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 la. We'll skip right
Okay.
over that. So there were some
Okay.
underlying conditions.
It all makes sense now.
Yeah.
So I believe, and listen, these are, I don't want to go throwing
It's an
things.
opinion.
It's an opinion.
Strictly an opinion.
My opinion is that they were using the prosecutor's office like human resources. This is a way we get rid of the problem.
Which is it's not uncommon.
No.
It's really not uncommon. I saw it in my department. They used the prosecutor's office as a weapon. They weaponized it, and a very dear friend of mine, all he's guilty of is trying to keep his marriage together.
Yeah.
He did it a little too long, but at the end, and this will tell you what kind of relationship it was. He got custody of the children. Yeah, he got custody of the children. Fought tooth and nail, lost his house, lost everything, but at least he had custody of his children.
That's hope.
Yeah,
That's the brass ring.
and that's worth something worth fighting for to the last penny.
You're looking at the face of hope right now. The face of suffering and the face of hope at the same time. So here we go. I'm there, and they're telling me now it's going to be on a warrant. We're taking you to the Essex County Jail.
With people that you locked up back in
Green Street or Doremus?
Doremus.
Oh, that place smells.
Uh-huh. I can tell you from personal experience. I can, what's funny is I thought in my head, this is how goofy we are as cops. I'm thinking of the joke I'm going to give at lineup. I was like, is anybody going to do a transport to Doremus? I know the way in 2 different levels.
You can give me a ride home.
Yeah. So I'm now there. They got all my personals, belt, laces, everything there. And now they got to call ahead. They got to call ahead because they don't want to see a police lieutenant shanked in booking, now going down to Doremus. Corrections officers helped me. They cleared the room, processed, fingerprinted, booked. And then if you think of Oz, you think of the Shawshank Redemption, you think of every bad prisoner movie you've ever seen. I'm living it. I am a white police lieutenant going into the Essex County Jail, and they are hurling as I'm doing the walk. I had the blanket. I had strip searched.
It's always fun when you got to spread your cheeks.
Yeah.
I did that in rehab. That was fun.
And this wasn't even recreationally. So every bad thing you can imagine, I'm walking there and I'm seeing the look. The one guy before I went in the cell, he looked at me like this and just puts his finger under his throat, like slitting my throat, like that's coming for me.
That'll humble you.
Yeah, no kidding.
And I said, "Holy God Almighty!" And I prayed. And
What did you pray for? Did you pray for a quick death?
Yeah, no
or to
kidding.
get out alive?
yeah, I was thinking like a brain aneurysm right
Yeah.
now would be even welcomed.
Yeah.
I really said I can't be, the merit award, the academy, lieutenant, SWAT
And you
team.
can't
saving-
picture yourself in that position at all. I mean, can't even fathom it.
And now you're walking into the 7th level of hell.
And I got to tell you, the guys that did the transport, I know they felt bad.
Yeah.
I know how they felt. It doesn't make it any easier. I have some views on the prosecutor's office. So there, I figure, all right, I'm overnight, hearing next day, I'll be out. Nope. Day 1. Night 1. Day 2.
Before you go there,
Yeah.
first time that door closes, I ask everybody I've ever spoken to that has done any sort of time, that because they say as soon as that door closes, that's about as rehabilitated as you're going to get.
Yeah.
Tell me about the first day that door closed.
I actually felt almost for a minute that I had a pause, like, like I was isolated because I was scared. I was scared for my life. I was very active in arrests, drug interdiction, traffic interdiction. I was writing Title 39. I was towing cars. I was locking people up. I was doing the dance. And I was scared. And when they closed the door, I was like, all right, at least,
A little safety at that point.
It really was my first thought, but it was a sense of dread. That sound that you hear in movies, I heard it.
Meet your new cellmate. He's the salad tosser guy.
He came back. The guy, they actually had to throw the guy out of my cell, and he kept coming back And he said, you know, in the vernacular, like, what the fuck you doing here? And I was like, I got to do something a little gangster to kind of get a little bit of street cred here. And I just went like this. I did a little thing with the...
Which you're not lying.
No.
Yeah.
I just did, you know, the gesture with my finger and thumb like in a gun. And I was like, you know, maybe that'll give him a little pause. But then one day turned into two days. And by the fourth day, had a hearing, and they had to move me for my own safety. They then transported me to the Bergen County Jail. And when they I went in the van on the chain gang with everybody else. I'm hearing them, and there had one segregated cell in the prisoner transport van. And, you know, there's most of the guys I was in there with were people of color, and they look at me handcuffed. And the only thing I could say, they're giving me to look sideways, and they're thinking, this guy must be Hannibal fucking Lecter.
Cyrus the Virus.
Yeah.
That's it's you right there.
They figured this guy must have, like, what did he do? You know? But, you know, obviously the fact that I was a cop was not coming out. So I went to Bergen for a total of 12 days in jail as a lieutenant. I was a lieutenant one day, and the next day.
I was going to say, you had what was bail set at?
No bail.
There was no bail at all? No bond?
No bail at all. Nothing. I had to do an emergent hearing.
With the bail reform and stuff, they're keeping you in there. That's just crazy.
I thought the same thing.
So you get out finally,
Mm-hmm.
you taste of freedom, and you know now you're like, oh my God, what do I do now?
Electronic monitoring.
Oh, you had the
Ankle bracelet?
I had an ankle bracelet.
Were you still getting paid?
So for the first couple of months I was, and then in July, the pay just magically stopped. It's not in, you know, as the accreditation manager, I can tell you, you know, the internal affairs guidelines and everything else. I knew what was supposed to happen, and the administration didn't really follow the script. So I was under electronic monitoring from May until September 25th of 2019. I'm now, it's like I still want to see my children. It's all this time. I'm back in the house. I now go before the family court, and they say, we're going to order a best interest evaluation, get a shrink involved. Who's going to pay for it? $2,000 a month in what they call pendente lite support, which is pending your divorce, that I had to pay my ex $2,000 a month, plus all the expenses, Schedule A, B, and C. And I also had to pay for a supervised visitation. The only way I could see them.
The guardian ad litem type of...
Not a guardian ad litem. It was supervised visitation, which means you have to go to a court-appointed supervisor that I had to pay $300-something for 1 hour to see my own children while I had a chaperone in a building.
Well, you got an ankle bracelet on.
The place was right across the street from police headquarters.
Oh, my gosh.
I went, and there was a very lovely woman in pretrial services who handled the bracelet, and she had she was an Islander. She had a lovely, like, Islander accent. What you doing here? And I went, you know where I went to pretrial services? I went in a suit, because I'm a cop. Anytime you go before court or anything, like, you should show respect. You put a suit. I get there, there's pimps, there's drug addicts. I'm sitting in there. I'm looking. I'm like, oh, why'd you wear this? They're looking at me cross-eyed again. I go in there, and this woman says, why are you wearing a suit, child? And I said, I wanted to be leave it for court.
Yeah.
And you just come here. And she was another blessing from God, because she says, this is political. There's no reason. I see this is. She's like, she had gangbangers, people, violent crime, because they never put him under. And I was under for 6 months. I'm driving to the visitation. You have to change the battery. When you go to sleep, if you forget to change the battery, it goes off and the violation is triggered. So you're changing the battery before shower. It's on there. I'm driving to the visitation, and the line that I'm on, I was one lane too close to my ex's residence, and it went off. As a violate, you're in a zone. You're in an exclusion zone. Get out. My phone starts ringing, and where are you? I said, this is where I am. She goes, yeah, I see you. Go in the other lane. Now you're good.
Wow.
That's crazy.
So, but you have to pick your life back up at some point.
Yeah.
Your job what did they do with your job? Are you fired or you let go? What's
To date, I am
Suspended pending termination or
suspended without pay.
pending termination is
Yeah,
generally what
they're
they'll say.
trying to seek termination, but we see it differently.
yeah? Well, of course, this is your livelihood.
Now, how many years did you have on a job at that point?
23 and a half.
So you're a year and a half away from.
I'd even told my ex, I said, this is, I'm working jobs. I'm working overnight. I'm working like a lot of jobs. I said, we're going to get debt clear and we're going to retire so we can have a good life.
Yeah. So at some point you're going through, and you're currently going through your legal battles, and that's going to be a whole other show in itself. You decide to get involved with this organization, which is kind of how we met.
Yeah,
It's called FACE, Fathers and Children Equality Incorporated.
that's correct.
Now, explain to what they do, because I know what they do, and they're, New Jersey is it's a state in the union that's very slated against the men in divorce. It's
Yeah.
just the way that it is.
And child custody
Yeah.
Yeah,
and domestic violence.
absolutely. And they're all common denominators. And you guys can probably testify to this. Everybody that comes in here, and I don't like to put, and I'm sure you don't either, I don't put suffering on a scale.
It's personal.
It's your own.
It's your own.
But
Absolutely.
so I don't try and say one person's suffering or bad fortune is worse.
Watch
This
some of
is-
our back episodes. You'll be like, this guy's got it bad.
and I had lost I ran out of money. The criminal charges, I'll just let you know, those were dismissed and expunged.
Expunged. That's a big one.
But you did 12 days in jail
12?
because of those.
Absolutely, and I'll never get them back.
No.
Right. So I prevailed. The prosecutor's office appealed. I prevailed on a motion to suppress. This goes to show you how they were looking to prosecute. I prevailed on a motion to suppress. They appealed it to the appellate division. I prevailed. The prosecutor's office appealed it to the New Jersey Supreme Court, and I prevailed.
Wow.
And I got it expunged after I did all my paperwork for my own expungement.
Dangerous man. Like I said in the beginning, you're a dangerous man
Fight the system.
because your brain, you know the law.
Yeah,
Knowledge is power. Knowledge is a weapon if you use it properly.
I'm a cog in the wheel. I thank you. Thank you.
No, I mean, he's 100% correct. Like you said, I mean, you told us before, you knew 2C laws, 39 laws, you knew the contract, I mean, you did your research, especially, going through the accreditation and all that.
I ran the Civilian Police Academy. I would do search and seizure training seminars and things like that. So now fast forward, the criminal is gone, and that's a roller coaster ride. 20 years in prison I was facing.
God.
Non-discretionary from the judge had zero discretion. 20 years in prison
For your father's guns.
for my father's lawfully purchased and inherited guns. When I first got those firearms, I went down to the PD and I said, listen, my father is a hunter. I got, it's a significant amount. What do I have to do? Well, in New Jersey, as draconian as the gun laws are, inheritance is a voluntary register. They gave me a little 2-piece carbonless thing that had 2 lines on it. They said, you could do it if you want, but you don't have to. So I didn't.
Yeah.
But now, supervised visitation, tens of thousands of dollars. My attorney quit because I couldn't pay them anymore, and I still have a bill. I then became my own family lawyer, pro se. Pro se is when you represent yourself. And it's 2 years now, and it's Christmas Eve, and I haven't seen my children. And I can only tell somebody, when parents talk about their kids, I'd kill for my kids. I'd die for my kids.
I said it last week. If my kids killed somebody, I'd help them bury the body and then sit in a jail cell for them.
I say I would give my last breath just so they could have one more.
Yep.
And I mean that with all my heart. And it's Christmas Eve, and my mind's going to some dark places. We know those places.
Yep.
And
Been there.
And I had contacted some people, and I was like, I'm not a man who looks for sympathy, but I'm a man who needs help. And I can't do this on my own. And I got a referral from another person, And our vice president, his name is Jeff Golden. Christmas Eve, there's tears in my eyes. I was like, this is it. This is all I got. And I said, this is organization Face. I sent him an email. Within 2 hours, he responded to me. You're on our mailing list. We got a Zoom call. Hop on. Give me a couple paragraphs on your incident, and we'll talk.
Hope.
Hope springs eternal.
Yeah.
And I was introduced to Face as a member, and I jumped on the call, and he started talking, and I was very upfront. I said, listen, I'm a police lieutenant. and he goes, all right.
Yeah.
So now it's like infiltrating a subculture, right? That you're a narc, right? Like, the biker gangs and everything, they're going to test you, except I told them. I wasn't hiding it. I'm trying, but for a while they were suspicious because they get people trying to infiltrate the group on the other side. And I had learned family law, and I started asking questions. He gave me some things to do, forms to fill out, how to go about it. And since that time, I've been on the call every night. I just became a regular. And I went from being the helped to the helper. And when people came on, I started
It's
telling
going to be
them what I
soothing
do.
for you, though, now, too, right?
It's purpose.
Yeah.
So the funny thing, somebody just brought this to my attention, and they're 100% correct. People who have gone through trauma, like your trauma is your trauma, my trauma, it's all personal.
Yeah.
People who have gone through trauma have a higher tendency to become an advocate for the next person because they don't ever want that next person to go through what they had to go through. You've traveled down that road.
If you have a heart and a soul, you don't want someone to go through what you went through. So, like you said, you'd be the advocate to help those people.
If there was a man or woman that jumped on early on and said, here's the secret sauce to get out of your situation, I might not be here. I have to be that person.
Yeah.
If it's not for my own children, whatever life has in store for me, I got to pay it forward and do it for somebody else. And we have federal law enforcement that calls up. We have guys that jump on, and Jeff started in Pennsylvania. He's the vice president. It's in 32 years. This organization has been in existence. It's one of the longest running fathers' rights group that I know of, because they're a flash in the pan. You talk about the podcasting industry, longevity. A lot of guys start off strong and they fizzle out. You guys got it down right. These guys at Face got it down right.
7-8 episodes on a podcast is this nonprofit?
It is a 501c3 nonprofit, all volunteer. I'm a volunteer. I don't get paid. I volunteer every night. There's a meeting tonight, so after I leave here, I'm going to jump on. I got guys that call me now asking me what to do.
Feels good though, right?
There's a young lady that spoke to me the other day, and she used this sentence, and it cut right to my heart. It was a mental health thing. I was talking to people, and they told me what to do. She said, "You inspired me."
Yeah, it's nice
to get in a group.
It's a good feeling.
I said, "I'm a nobody from Nutley."
But you're not.
I'm the sad story. I'm a disgraced police lieutenant.
I think you got to stop thinking of yourself as a nobody, because you're helping people. That makes you a somebody, and you're somebody anyway. Whether you think so or not, you're somebody to your kids. When you were saying they had to drag your kids off you, you're somebody to your kids.
Yeah.
So, we joke around all the time and say we're nobodies. You're somebody to somebody.
So a nobody to me is somebody with, a couple $100,000 in the bank, 1 million followers on social media, and doesn't do anything with their influence.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's a nobody.
I heard a saying recently, if you have nothing else like behind it, like you guys do, like a great mission, being Instagram famous is like being Monopoly rich.
Yeah, I heard that. I read that one too. So where can we find Face NJ?
Yeah, so you can get on. It's facenj.org. And we have meetings there. You go to the website. There's an info email. You can reach out. You can send an email. We get you on the meetings. The reason that I know this is I had an opportunity that Jeff Golden and Dave Fisher, he's the president, they said they have an opening on the board of directors.
Very good.
And they said, we're going to have a meeting. It was like a wise guy meeting. It was in a hotel. They all had
You have to kiss the ring and all that.
It was, I went there.
Saint, just remember, go hand to hand when you burn the saint.
And I went there, and it was, there's the whole board right there, and I'm walking. I wore a suit again.
Oh, you should have wore a hood. You should have wore a hood.
The Illuminati.
Yeah. Hey.
And I went in, and I'm on the board of directors, and I am, I hope, an instrument to help others when I get on. I have stories, and just to let you know, it says fathers and children's equality. There's a good amount of mothers on that call
exactly.
too. Same-sex marriages. We have people that are co-parents and not married that are involved in family court.
I joke around with some of our LGBT friends.
Yeah.
I said, you guys ruined it. I'm going to tell you right now, you guys ruined it. The one thing gay people had is they couldn't get married. Hey, listen, I'd love to marry you, but I can't. And you guys went and changed that law. Good job. Good job.
What you're seeking a remedy that you really have. It's good.
Yeah, you got it well. You got it well.
So there's a saying there is nothing that you can do unmarried that you can do married,
This is true.
except for one thing: get divorced.
Yeah.
That is the only thing.
Well, it's a legal contract amongst anything.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
The number one cause of divorce.
Is
Marriage.
Exactly.
No rehearsal here.
Yeah.
Tom, we're coming to the end of this thing here, and your story is still being written, but the meat and potatoes of it has led you to your purpose right now. But you've gone through an enormous amount of suffering. I want to know what it's taught you.
I'm thankful to be put in this position. I don't enjoy the suffering, believe me. But I have to leave a legacy. There's a term in Irish, and if Amanda Coleman is watching, please forgive me for my brogue. It's called macushla, and it's a term of endearment that I use for my daughters. And what it means literally in Gaelic is my pulse, my heart. And in Spanish, there's a similar
Cariño in Spanish.
mi corazón.
Mi
corazón.
But cariño is, and listen, Andrew, you might have to chime in on this one. That's like
Your heart.
your heart. You bleed from your heart.
So depending where you're from, there's a few different ways of saying it. Some people say mi amor.
Yeah.
Some people say querida. Some people say
But it's
mi corazón.
it's also dialect driven as well.
Mi
Yes.
amor is my love, is right? Mi
Right.
amor.
Yes.
I'm placed in this position to leave a legacy that if for any reason my girls didn't know about the father, their father, or they're made to feel otherwise, I'm letting my girls know.
You know, the
You're
funny
my heart.
The funny thing about trauma is it works itself out when it's ready to work itself out.
Yeah.
And I strongly believe truth will come out. I believe in karma. I believe in all that stuff. And I believe karma is coming for you. And you're just paying into that karma bank, waiting for to cash the check one day, and you'll get there. I know you're going to get there. 'Cause you're a good man, Tom.
Very kind, and very, very proud to be here and privileged.
Hey, man, keep up the good work, man. You know, good things come to good people.
I know you're helping one of our brothers who we think of as our family.
Absolutely.
And for that alone,
Can't thank you enough for that.
for nothing else, you take some phone calls away from me from him. No, I'm just kidding. I love when I talk to him.
And any day and twice on Sunday, any time of night, I'm proud to do it.
We'll keep fighting the good fight, my friend.
You got it, brother.
All right. And that's going to do it for this episode of The Suffering Podcast, The Suffering of a Domestic with Tom Flynn. As always, let's think about all the stuff that we learned. I am grateful for Mike Failace. The noble profession is a selfless act. Some events grow like cancer. Kids are the real victim when a relationship breaks up. But most importantly, knowledge is power, and knowledge is your greatest weapon. That's going to do it for this episode. Don't forget to follow us on all social media, TikTok, Instagram, Clapper, Facebook, whatever else I'm missing.
Fans only.
Fans only, yes. Only fans.
Only fans, but I get that wrong every week.
Follow Mike at Mike_Failace. Follow me at Real Kevin Donaldson. And, of course, follow the Suffering Podcast. We will see you on the next episode.